At 11:03 a.m. July 10, 1940, a Spitfire snaps into a turn no German pilot can follow over the English Channel. The Messerschmitt Bf 109 behind it struggles, then falls away. Sunlight explodes across the elliptical wings. The Merlin engine screams over crashing surf. Salt wind cuts through the cockpit, tasting of blood and invasion. Above, storm clouds tower like a collapsing ceiling. The sky trembles. Britain trembles. The weight of invasion pressing down from the heavens. What the pilot fighting for his life doesn't know is this: the wing saving him was drawn by a man already in his grave. A dying engineer who had 6 months to live and chose to spend them defying physics instead of saying goodbye. The Air Ministry called his design mathematical indulgence. They nearly rejected it. Tonight it's the only thing standing between Britain and annihilation. This is the story of how one impossible wing and the man who refused to die before finishing it rewrote the fate of the free world. How does a design so radical it was nearly rejected become the weapon that saves a nation? Southern England, 1931. The Schneider Trophy blazes across the Solent as the S-6B screams past at 340 miles per hour. The roar shakes the coastline. Spray explodes behind the fuselage. For one brief, brilliant moment, Britain glimpses what it could become. The fastest nation on Earth, unstoppable. Then the moment ends, and reality returns. The Royal Air Force is dying. 220-mile-per-hour biplanes with canvas wings flapping in the wind. Open cockpits where pilots freeze at altitude. Tactics copied from 1918. The smell of doped fabric and castor oil fills outdated hangars, the scent of a war Britain already fought, already won, and already forgot. Walk into any RAF squadron in 1931 and you'll find men flying machines their fathers flew. The same wire-braced wings, the same wooden propellers, the same deadly illusion that the last war taught them everything they need to know about the next one. But the next war isn't waiting. Across the channel, something darker is rising. Germany is not supposed to have an air force. The Treaty of Versailles forbids it. Versailles was meant to cage the beast forever, strip Germany of its military, its pride, its ability to threaten Europe again. But treaties are just paper, and paper burns. Glider clubs multiply across the German countryside like a quiet infection. Young men learn to fly without engines, mastering thermals and control surfaces in sailplanes that technically aren't military aircraft. Engine factories hum day and night under the cover of civilian production tractors. Trucks anything with plausible deniability. No one is fooled. Intelligence reports pile up in London. Photographs, testimonies, evidence of rearmament so blatant it borders on mockery. By 1935, the Luftwaffe tears off its mask. Hermann Göring announces its existence at a rally in Berlin, modern squadrons, aggressive doctrine, thousands of aircraft expanding faster than anyone predicted. Messerschmitt and Heinkel factories work triple shifts. Pilot training accelerates. Doctrine evolves. The world watches in stunned silence. Britain watches and does nothing. Parliament debates. Committees form, reports circulate, but the RAF budget barely increases. No one wants another arms race. No one wants to believe it's already started. At Woolston on the southern coast of England, fog rolls in from the Solent, softening the distant chimneys into gray shadows. Inside, the supermarine works steel hammers echo through cavernous hangars that smell of salt air and machine oil. Blueprints whip and snap in the coastal wind, their edges lifting as if trying to escape the tables that hold them down. Golden hour sunlight slices through high windows, catching propeller arcs in brief flashes, moments of hope struggling against the growing darkness. Something is stirring here. Not confidence. Not yet. But the first tremor of defiance. The first whisper that maybe, just maybe, Britain doesn't have to die quietly. Engineers huddle over drafting tables, their faces lit by desk lamps in the dim interior. They know what's coming. They read the same reports. They see the same intelligence photographs of German factories. They understand what it means when a nation decides to rearm in secret and then stops pretending. Outside seagulls cry over the water. Waves lap against the docks where seaplanes once launched for racing glory. That glory feels distant now, irrelevant. Speed records don't win wars, but the men who know how to build speed, they might. The Air Ministry finally responds. They issue Specification F-730. Britain needs a new fighter, but the requirements betray their fear. 4 guns instead of 8. Open cockpit instead of enclosed. Fixed landing gear instead of retractable. 240 miles per hour, barely faster than what's already rusting on the airfields. It's not a specification. It's surrender dressed up as strategy. And everyone knows it, except they don't say it. Not yet. Because across Europe, the storm isn't gathering anymore, it's here and gathers momentum. Reginald Joseph Mitchell is 41 years old, sharp-featured, uncompromising, brilliant in the way that makes other engineers uncomfortable. He has been designing seaplanes for Supermarine since 1917. He won the Schneider Trophy 3 times. He understands speed. He understands structure. He understands how to make metal do things metal shouldn't be able to do. But there's something else he understands now, something he tells no one. He's dying. Rectal cancer. The diagnosis comes without warning, without mercy. Surgery buys him time, 2 years, maybe 3 if he's lucky. The doctors are optimistic in that carefully rehearsed way doctors have when they're lying to spare your feelings. Mitchell knows better. He's an engineer, he understands probabilities, he understands structural failure, and he understands when a system is breaking down beyond repair. By 1936, the cancer returns. Aggressive, spreading. The pain becomes constant, a low grinding ache that never fully disappears. The doctors give him 6 months, maybe less. Mitchell doesn't argue, doesn't break down, doesn't quit. He goes back to work. Because what else is there? What else has there ever been his wife knows? His closest colleagues suspect. But Mitchell doesn't discuss it, doesn't want sympathy, doesn't want the work to stop because people are too busy feeling sorry for him. So he hides it, works through the pain, loses weight, grows pale, tells people he's fighting a cold that won't quit. And every morning he walks into the Supermarine Works and picks up his pencil like a man who has all the time in the world. Across the hangar, his team fights their own battles. Beverly Shenstone calculates airflow over wing sections, his pencil scratching equations that most engineers can't even read. The mathematics of lift and drag, of boundary layers and pressure gradients, arcane knowledge that separates the dreamers from the builders. Young draftsmen sketch stressed skin monocoque fuselages, hungry for speed, desperate to prove the old ways are dead. Outside, RAF recruits train on Avro 504's biplanes, so outdated they belong in museums. These boys don't know it yet, but the weapon that will save their lives is being born right now in this cold coastal hangar by a man racing against his own extinction. One night late in the design process, Mitchell sits alone at his drafting table. Rain hammers the metal roof in violent bursts. The hangar is black except for the cone of lamplight over his workspace. His hand moves across the paper, tracing the wing's curvature, then stops. The tremor starts in his fingers. Subtle at first, then worse. The pencil wavers. The line corrupts. He stares at his hand like it's betrayed him. Then he slams his palm flat on the table, pressing down hard, forcing it still. The tremor fights him. He presses harder. His knuckles go white. The shaking stops. He lifts the pencil again. The line continues. Smooth, precise, perfect. His body is failing, but his mind is sharper than ever. The pain sharpens it. The fear sharpens it. Every stroke is defiance. Every calculation is a refusal to let death win before he's finished. Rain echoes through the empty hangar like applause from ghosts. Somewhere in the darkness, machinery hums. Water drips from the rafters onto concrete. He doesn't look up, doesn't stop. He whispers into the silence, "If it looks right, it will fly right." It's not poetry, it's religion. Mitchell believes aerodynamics has elegance. That form and function are inseparable. That beauty and design isn't decoration, it's truth made visible. The elliptical wing isn't chosen because it looks graceful. It's chosen because it's the most efficient shape physics allows. Maximum lift, minimum drag, perfect distribution of force. It's also the hardest wing ever conceived to manufacture. Mitchell knows this. The Air Ministry will hate it. The factory will struggle with it. Costs will explode. Production will crawl. He draws it anyway, because the sky doesn't care about budgets, physics doesn't negotiate, and neither will he. Not now, not with the time he has left. February 1934. The Supermarine Type 224 rolls out for testing. This is Mitchell's first attempt to meet the Air Ministry's specification. The moment should feel triumphant. Instead, it feels like a funeral. The Type 224 sits on the tarmac, looking awkward, ungainly, a compromise made metal. Engineers stand in silence, staring at what they've built. No one wants to say it, so Mitchell says it for them. It's not good enough. The test flights confirm what everyone already knows. The Type 224 is sluggish, awkward. Its gull wings create drag instead of eliminating it. Its fixed landing gear hangs beneath like dead weight the aircraft can't shake. Top speed barely scrapes 238 miles per hour, slower than promised, slower than needed, slower than the enemy. Pilots mock it as the flying brick. Some refuse to fly it a second time. The nickname spreads through RAF squadrons like a disease. It becomes a joke. Then it becomes something worse than a joke. It becomes a symbol of British inadequacy. During a stall test at Martlesham Heath, the prototype drops violently. The nose pitches forward. The controls go mushy. Metal shrieks as the airframe shudders under forces it was never designed to handle. Engineers on the ground flinch instinctively, stepping back as if the aircraft might explode on impact. The test pilot fights for control, his knuckles white on the stick. The aircraft wobbles, twisting in the air like a wounded bird. For 3 seconds, 3 eternal seconds, it looks like it's going to auger straight into the ground. Then somehow the pilot recovers. The nose comes up, the wings level. The landing is hard but survivable. When the pilot climbs out, his hands are shaking. He doesn't file a full report. He doesn't need to. Everyone saw it. Outside, the sky suddenly darkens. Clouds close in from the channel, blotting out the sun in minutes. The temperature drops. Wind picks up, scattering papers across the airfield. It feels like a metaphor for Britain's collapsing advantage. And maybe it is. Because across the channel, Germany isn't struggling. Germany is accelerating. May 1935. Day. The Messerschmitt Bf 109 prototype takes flight sleek, modern, deadly. It reaches 290 miles per hour on its first test, 50 miles per hour faster than Britain's best fighter. The Heinkel He-111 bomber enters production, a twin-engine design that can outrun most British interceptors. Luftwaffe squadrons expand across airfields that didn't exist 2 years ago. Goering boasts publicly about Germany's air superiority, and he's not bluffing. British intelligence estimates the Luftwaffe already outnumbers the RAF 2-1. By 1937, it will be 3-1. By 1939, 4-1. The numbers don't lie. Britain is losing a race it didn't know it was running. Meanwhile, Britain hesitates. Committees debate procurement strategies. Bureaucrats argue over budgets. Funding requests stall in Parliament. The Air Ministry issues cautious specifications, asks for incremental improvements, avoids risks. No one wants to admit how bad things are. Admitting it means accepting responsibility, accepting blame. So instead, they do nothing, and the gap widens. Back at Woolston, harsh fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting everything in sickly green. The smell of torn metal lingers in the air, aluminum sheared during stress tests, steel fatigued beyond repair. Engineers gather around the Type 224 wreckage like mourners at a wake. Someone has to say it. Finally, Shenstone does. We need to start over. Mitchell nods. He's been thinking the same thing for weeks. The prototype sits against stormy gray skies during another failed test flight, its awkward silhouette a reminder of everything Britain is doing wrong. The Type 224 isn't just a failure of design, it's a failure of imagination, a failure of courage. And unless something changes, unless someone has the guts to throw out the rulebook and start fresh, Britain is going to lose the next war before the first shot is even fired. Mitchell refuses to yield. The Type 224 failure doesn't break him, it clarifies him. He knows exactly what Britain needs now, and he knows the Air Ministry will never ask for it. So he stops waiting for permission. He begins sketching a fighter no one asked for, a fighter designed not for committees or specifications or political compromise. A fighter designed for the sky itself. His blueprint defies every convention, every safe assumption, every bureaucratic constraint that's choking British aviation to death. The elliptical wing offering maximum lift distribution with minimum induced drag. A stressed skin monocoque fuselage that eliminates internal bracing, turning the entire airframe into a load-bearing structure. 8 303 Browning machine guns concentrated in the wings, delivering firepower no fighter has ever carried. Retractable landing gear that tucks away cleanly, reducing drag by nearly 20%. An enclosed cockpit that protects the pilot and smooths airflow over the fuselage. And the Rolls-Royce PV-12 engine, soon to be renamed the Merlin, delivering over 1,000 horsepower. More power than any fighter engine in Europe. He redesigns everything: airflow, structure, balance, weight distribution. He's not modifying the Type 224, he's erasing it. Starting from zero, starting from physics. He's designing not to please officials, but to satisfy aerodynamics itself. And aerodynamics is unforgiving. It doesn't care about politics, it doesn't care about budgets, it doesn't care if you're dying, it only cares if you're right. Every line on the blueprint is calculated defiance. Every curve is a refusal to compromise. Beverly Shenstone watches from across the drafting room, understanding immediately what Mitchell is doing. This isn't just a new aircraft. It's a declaration of war against mediocrity, against the cowardice that's paralyzing British aviation. Shenstone will later say, Mitchell believed aerodynamics had elegance. If it looked right, it would fly right. But it's more than belief. It's faith. Faith that the laws of physics will reward courage, that doing the hard thing, the right thing, will somehow be enough. The elliptical wing becomes Mitchell's obsession. He sketches it dozens of times, refining the curve, adjusting the aspect ratio, calculating the chord distribution. It's not chosen because it looks beautiful, though it does. It's chosen because it's the most efficient shape possible. The elliptical planform distributes lift perfectly across the span maximum, at the root tapering gradually to the tips. Induced drag is minimized. Structural loads are optimized. The stall characteristics are forgiving. On paper, it's perfect. In reality, it's a nightmare to build. Mitchell knows this. Each rib will require individual shaping, no two identical. Each panel will demand precision fitting by hand. The compound curves can't be stamped or pressed, they have to be formed over custom tooling. Skilled labor, expensive materials, thousands of man-hours per aircraft. The factory will hate it, accountants will scream, production will crawl while the Luftwaffe churns out fighters by the hundred. He knows all of this. He draws it anyway. Warm drafting lamps cast long shadows as nights grow longer. Graphite stains his fingertips black. Outside skies clear after weeks of storms. Moonlight breaks through dissipating clouds. Shadows of wings appear against the clearing weather, visual promises of breakthrough. The defiance is no longer mechanical. It's spiritual, born from a man whose time is running out, who understands you don't get second chances, that you do the work that matters while you still can. He will not live to see the war. But he will leave behind the seconds that win it. The Air Ministry wanted incremental improvement. Mitchell is giving them revolution. They asked for 240 miles per hour. He's designing for 360. They asked for 4 guns. He's giving them 8. They wanted safe. He's giving them necessary. Because the sky doesn't care about safe. Physics doesn't negotiate. And the enemy isn't waiting for Britain to catch up. This wing will outlive him. It has to. It's the only immortality an engineer gets. March 5, 1936. Eastleigh Aerodrome. Dawn breaks cold and clear over southern England. Prototype K5054 waits on the runway, its aluminum skin gleaming wet with morning dew. Sunlight catches the elliptical wings, the shape that nearly bankrupted Supermarine to build. The shape Mitchell spent his last healthy months perfecting. Engineers stand in small clusters, arms crossed against the chill, saying nothing. They've bet everything on this moment, their reputations, their careers, their belief that one dying man might be right when everyone else said he was wrong. Test pilot Joseph Mutt. Summers climbs into the cockpit. He's flown hundreds of aircraft, biplanes, seaplanes, experimental prototypes that killed the pilots before him. He knows what failure looks like. He straps in without ceremony, checks the instruments, tests the control surfaces. Then he signals the ground crew. The Merlin engine coughs once, twice, then catches a deep resonant growl that reverberates across the airfield like thunder rolling in from the coast. The sound is unlike anything they've heard before, raw power barely contained. The ground crew steps back instinctively, feeling the vibration in their chests. Summers releases the brakes. The Spitfire accelerates faster than expected, lighter than it should be. At 80 miles per hour, the tail lifts. At 95, the wheels leave the ground. The transition is effortless. The aircraft doesn't fight to climb, it rises like gravity is negotiable. As the Spitfire ascends, the Merlin's roar softens. At 1,000 feet, it becomes a distant rumble. At 5,000 feet, a thin whisper. Higher still, the sound fades, entirely replaced by the high, breathless hush of altitude. Up here, death is silent. Up here in the cold, thin air above the clouds, Mitchell's spirit lingers. Someone on the ground whispers, "My God." No one disagrees. This is the moment the wing proves itself. Summers banks left. The controls respond instantly, crisp, precise. He pulls into a steep climb. The aircraft soars without hesitation. He rolls right, feeling the perfect balance the way the wings grip the air. Every input translates directly into motion. No slop, no compromise. It flies exactly how Mitchell drew it. When Summers lands 20 minutes later, his face is unreadable. He climbs out. The engineers rush forward, desperate for a verdict. His report is 6 words: "I don't want anything touched." The Spitfire works, but triumph is fragile. Production becomes the next battlefield and Britain is losing. At Woolston, manufacturing crews struggle with the elliptical wing's brutal complexity. Each Spitfire feels like artisan work, not mass production. Skilled craftsmen spend weeks shaping individual ribs by hand. Panels must be fitted with tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. Progress crawls. 3 aircraft a month, then 5. Nowhere near enough. The Air Ministry demands faster production. A massive new factory opens at Castle Bromwich, designed to produce hundreds monthly. But the transition is catastrophic. Workers arrive untrained. Tools are inadequate. Jigs don't fit. Panels warp. Defects multiply. Castle Bromwich produces almost nothing in its first year. A factory built for speed, delivering only frustration. Meanwhile, the storm breaks. 1938. Germany absorbs Austria. 1939. Hitler invades Czechoslovakia, then Poland. Britain declares war with fewer than 400 Spitfires. It's not enough. Luftwaffe bombers darken the skies. Messerschmitt fighters hunt in packs. Britain's miracle fighter exists in numbers too small to matter. Sun halos break through cockpit glass during test flights. The horizon trembles. Air thins to silence at altitude, the space where fear transforms into mastery. Above the clouds, the world is serene. below the world Mitchell fought to save trembles on the edge of annihilation. The wing works. The design is flawless. But brilliance means nothing if you can't build it fast enough. And time, the one thing Mitchell never had, is running out for Britain too. By 1938, Spitfires finally reach RAF squadrons in meaningful numbers. Pilots strap into cockpits expecting another compromise, another good enough fighter that will get them killed. What they discover instead changes everything. The tight turning radius that no Bf-109 can follow. Messerschmitts try to stay with them in a turn and bleed speed until they stall. The rapid climb rate that lets British fighters meet German bombers at altitude before they can release their payloads over London. The fuel-efficient sweeping descents that extend patrol time, giving pilots extra minutes in the air, minutes that mean the difference between intercept and massacre. Squadron leaders begin experimenting, pushing the design beyond what Mitchell intended. Clipped wings for low-altitude combat over the Channel, trading high-altitude performance for brutal roll rates in dogfights. Reinforced fuselages for high-speed dives that let Spitfires bounce enemy formations from above. Upgraded Merlin engines pushing the performance envelope even further, boost more power, more speed. RAF doctrine transforms overnight. Rigid formations are abandoned. Fluid aggressive tactics replace textbook maneuvers. The Spitfire becomes the tool that unlocks a new way of fighting. Then the enemy notices. After engagements over the Channel, Luftwaffe pilots return shaken. Their after-action reports describe the British fighter with something new in the tone, respect edged with fear. One captured Bf-109 pilot interrogated at an RAF base finally admits what German squadron leaders already know. When a Spitfire turned, we knew we could not follow. The word spread through intelligence channels, through RAF messes, through newspapers hungry for good news. It's not propaganda, it's physics. The elliptical wing gives the Spitfire a turning advantage no amount of German engineering can overcome. Messerschmitt pilots adapt their tactics out of necessity. They avoid prolonged dogfights now. Instead, they rely on speed and altitude advantage diving attacks that work against Hurricanes but fail against Spitfires. Because Spitfires climb faster, turn tighter, and the pilots flying them are learning that fear works both ways. The psychological impact spreads through Luftwaffe squadrons like a virus. Crews scan the sky nervously during every mission, watching for the distinctive elliptical silhouette. They know what it means. If a Spitfire gets behind you, if you hear that Merlin scream as it closes distance, escape is unlikely. Survival becomes a question of luck, not skill. Summer 1940. The Battle of Britain rages. London burns under incendiary raids. Airfields are cratered, radar stations are destroyed. Civilians die in the thousands. But the Spitfire endures. Every morning, RAF ground crews patch bullet holes, replace shattered canopies, reload ammunition belts. Every afternoon, the same aircraft lift off again. The same pilots strap in knowing the odds, flying anyway. By September, Luftwaffe losses become unsustainable. Bomber crews refuse missions without overwhelming fighter escort. The escorts get shredded by Spitfires. The mathematics of attrition turn against Germany. Hitler postpones the invasion. Operation Sea Lion, the plan to land Wehrmacht divisions on British beaches, is quietly cancelled. The barges assembling in French ports are dispersed. The invasion that seemed inevitable in July becomes impossible by October. Britain survives, and the weapon that saved it bears the fingerprints of a man 3 years dead. The skies over Britain transform. Once dark with storm clouds and the dread of invasion, they are now clear, calm blue. Morning light paints the Channel gold. Clean vapor trails streak across the sky in graceful arcs. Spitfire formations patrol the coast, their elliptical wings catching the sun. The sky itself becomes a declaration. Mastery has replaced fear. Discovery has replaced desperation. The impossible wing has rewritten not just tactics, but history. Mitchell's mathematics, translated into aluminum and rivets, have altered the trajectory of the war, and every pilot who survives knows it. They don't talk about it much, They don't have the words, but when they bank over the channel and feel the controls respond instant, precise, perfect, they understand. They're flying a dead man's defiance. And it's keeping them alive. June 11th, 1937. Reginald Mitchell dies in his sleep. He is 52 years old. The cancer that gave him 6 months took 3 years, but it took everything. He never hears the Merlin's roar in combat, never sees his elliptical wing bank over the channel with sunlight breaking across its surface. Never knows that his design will save a nation and become a symbol recognized around the world. He dies believing his work might matter. He never learns that it changes everything. The funeral is small. Colleagues, family, a few engineers who understand what's been lost. The obituaries are polite but brief. Aircraft designer, won Schneider Trophy, dead at 52. No one mentions the Spitfire. It's still just a prototype, still an experiment, still unproven. 3 years later, when the aircraft proves itself over Britain, Mitchell's name is barely mentioned. The press writes about Churchill, about radar, about the few. The pilots get the glory. The politicians get the credit. And the man who gave them the weapon they needed to survive becomes a footnote. After the war, the world moves on with brutal efficiency. Jet engines replace propellers overnight. Swept wings replace elliptical curves. The Spitfire is phased out, replaced by faster, more modern aircraft that make Mitchell's masterpiece look quaint, obsolete, a relic. Archives are lost in bombing raids, files scattered, blueprints, destroyed records erased by fire and bureaucracy. Factory documentation is scattered across government offices and forgotten. Historians focus on the big names, the famous battles, the dramatic moments. Reginald Mitchell fades into footnotes and then into silence. At Woolston, the old supermarine works stand empty. The factory that built thousands of Spitfires, the place where Mitchell's vision became metal and saved a nation, is abandoned after the war ends. Wind howls through the steel frames, a sound like mourning. Dust drifts across silent factory floors where craftsmen once shaped wings with precision measured in thousandths of an inch. The hangars are cold now, empty. Haunted by industrial ghosts, the phantom sound of hammers on aluminum, the ghost smell of machine oil and aviation fuel, the memory of voices calling measurements across vast spaces now filled only with echoes. Rain leaks through rusted roofing. Weeds push through cracked concrete. The drafting tables where Mitchell drew his impossible wing are gone, sold for scrap, burned, lost. No one thought to preserve them. Why would they? They're just tables, just wood and metal, not monuments, not sacred, just tools that outlived their usefulness. But echoes remain, stubborn, refusing to die. In museums across Britain, preserved Spitfires sit behind velvet ropes, their paint carefully maintained, their aluminum polished to mirror brightness. Tourists walk past snapping photos, not understanding what they're looking at. Occasionally, one is restored to flight. Wealthy collectors or heritage organizations pay millions to hear the Merlin run one more time. When the engine starts, the sound stops conversations. It's unmistakable, a deep, resonant growl that vibrates through your chest, through your bones, through memory itself. A sound that refuses to die. Veterans come to see these restorations. Old men now bent with age, leaning on canes. Some of them flew Spitfires. Some of them repaired them. Some of them just remember what it meant when they heard that sound overhead, that it meant Britain was still fighting, still surviving, still refusing to surrender. They stand in silence watching the aircraft taxi. Some of them cry. They don't explain why. They don't need to. They know what that sound means. They know what was saved, and they know most people have forgotten the name of the man who made it possible. War forces nations to choose between tradition and courage, between the safety of the known and the risk of the necessary, between incremental improvements that feel safe and radical designs that might fail spectacularly. Reginald Mitchell chose courage, not once but every day for 3 years while his body failed and bureaucrats told him his wing was too complicated, too expensive, too risky. Every day he chose to keep drawing, keep calculating, Keep refining. His wing was not built for glory. It was not designed to win awards or impress committees or secure promotions. It was built as an act of defiance against time, against disease, against the forces gathering across Europe that sought to destroy everything he believed in. A dying engineer gave Britain the seconds that shaped the outcome of a war. Think about that. Seconds. The difference between a Spitfire completing a turn and a Messerschmitt completing the same turn measured in heartbeats. Those seconds multiplied across thousands of engagements, across months of desperate combat, became the margin between invasion and survival, between occupation and freedom. Mitchell never lived to hear the Merlins roar in battle. He never stood on the cliffs of Dover and watched his design chase German bombers back across the Channel. He never knew that every time a Spitfire pilot pulled hard into a turn and felt the wings bite the air with impossible grip, he was flying Mitchell's mathematics. Mitchell's faith. Mitchell's refusal to compromise. But every freedom that followed every life, saved every city, not burned every child who grew up in a Britain that remained free, carries the echo of the wing he left behind. His story proves something the world keeps forgetting, that a single breakthrough born from personal sacrifice and uncompromising ingenuity can alter the course of history. That engineering is not just calculation, it is conviction. That the most impossible designs are sometimes the only ones worth building. That doing the hard thing, the right thing, the necessary thing matters more than doing the safe thing. The sky does not negotiate. It never has. Physics does not compromise. It rewards those who respect its laws and destroys those who don't. Mitchell understood this in a way most engineers never will. He did not try to conquer the sky. He learned to respect it, to listen to what it demanded, to design not for what committees wanted, but for what the air itself required. And in doing so, he gave his nation the tool it needed to survive the darkest moment in its history. A tool most people have forgotten, a name most people never learned. But the work remains. The wing remains, the seconds remain. 3 seconds of black. Silence. Then distant and faint the sound of a Merlin engine, growing, building, then fading again into nothing. Pale dawn light breaks over the English Channel. Soft wind ripples the water in patterns of silver and gray. The sky is clear now. No storm clouds, no invasion fleets, no fear. A lone Spitfire glides across the horizon, its elliptical wings cutting through the morning air with effortless grace. Sunlight catches the curves Mitchell spent his last months perfecting. The aircraft banks gently turning south, its shadow racing across the water below. The sky, once a symbol of terror, once darkened by the promise of annihilation, now opens in quiet triumph. The Spitfire climbs higher, smaller, becoming one with the light. The sound of the Merlin fades to a whisper, then to nothing. The aircraft dissolves into the distance, becoming a memory, becoming history. But the echo remains. In every turn, in every climb, in every moment when the impossible becomes necessary and someone somewhere chooses courage over safety, the echo remains. Always,